Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. I hope you're having a great conference today and appreciate you spending a few minutes with me. As Bruce mentioned, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a partner in the asset management practice at KPMG here in New York. And along with a few others, some of whom are here in the conference today, I co-lead the digital assets team here in the United States. As evidenced by my gray beard, I'm an old man in what is a young person's profession, that is the public accounting industry. And when I walk into our crypto and digital assets clients, I'm really an old man. But the advantage of my 30 years in the industry, I have seen a lot. And I see a lot of parallels between the digital assets industry today and what I saw in the early 90s in hedge funds and private equity, industries that were a pimple compared to the size that they are today, along with the internet and the dot-com companies of the mid to late 90s and the bubble thereafter. And I just want to share with you some of what we see from our perspective, these parallels of these nascent early stage businesses, early stage industries, niche companies, niche markets that want to go mainstream. They want to become institutional grade. They want to become global. There are common characteristics that we see from the seat that we sit in. And I want to share some of them with you so you can contemplate them in your business, and hopefully a few minutes with me can give you a lot of assistance. And if you're a service provider like we are, I'll ask you to tell your friends and tell your clients, because these are things that we see on an everyday basis in our practice that are pretty simple and straightforward. And it's about how you go mainstream, how you plan ahead, and how you become institutional in a business at scale. So at KPMG, we have the fortune of being at the very center of the capital markets, a recognized brand as a leader in the audit industry, the highest level of audit rigor. We're a leader in financial services, and we fundamentally believe that digital assets and the blockchain is the future of financial services, a big part of that future, and it's why we've invested heavily in our capabilities and our people to support this practice. The end result is we get a look at almost every single major digital assets company to do their audit work. That's across the entire ecosystem of digital assets. We get a look at almost every single one of them. Clients come to us with institutional aspirations. They desire to be registered with the SEC. They desire to go global. They have significant institutional investors that want to get involved in their business. And they do come to us with a recognition of what the KPMG brand means in the audit industry. And what I'll say is, more often than not, these companies are not quite prepared for the process they go through in our audits. Not unexpected, that's okay. But there are some things that you can think about as you engage, as you become mainstream, that I think are going to help you as you make that journey from a niche entity into a mainstream institution. And the first of which is your internal controls. Focusing on your internal controls, and I don't mean just about the technology and what it is that these companies do so well. I mean internal controls built all around the entire organization, having to do with your accounting finance functions, everything that feeds into the profit and loss statements, and having those internal controls well documented. It's one of the first things that we have to look at as we're contemplating whether we want to have an audit relationship or not. We talk about internal controls. More often than not, these companies aren't ready. Certainly not ready if you're going to be registered with the SEC or undergoing regulatory scrutiny, and potentially not ready for the scrutiny of an institutional investor. What are the results? The results are you get hiccups along the way. It slows you down. We don't want to be the reason why you can't close on that $40 million investment transaction 3 weeks from now, right? But it slows you down. Or at worst, you could have a failure and end up with a control weakness, or potentially a failure of the business. We've seen it be that significant. So the first is internal controls. The second is the accounting and the financial reporting function. Yes, I'm a dorky accountant, I get it. This stuff is really, really important because it's the language of business. And compound that with the fact that there's very little on-point guidance in the accounting world for digital assets. What you have to do is you have to have a practitioner that grounds oneself in the accounting literature and the concepts that underlie that literature, and be able to make analogies to other parts of the literature to figure out what the right answers are. And way more often than not, we find that these companies aren't prepared for the accounting questions that come. If you want to see what I mean, take a look at any of the branded native crypto companies that are SEC registrants. Take a look at their original registration statement and follow the trail, which is public, of SEC comments that go back and forth between the company's management and the SEC. From an accountant's perspective, sometimes they can be kind of entertaining, but they are really nitty-gritty around accounting details. And if there are 3, 4, or 5 of those exchanges back and forth to the SEC, it's an indication of a challenge there that wasn't overcome early on. Again, what's the end result? It can slow your progress. It can taint your brand. It can spook institutional investors. So hire well internally or hire an advisor, and we do that kind of work. And finally, I'll ask you to engage with your auditors sooner. If you want us to do the audits, I'll tell you, digital asset clients sit right at the very top of the risk spectrum in our audit portfolio, the entire thing. And that means it gets an incredible amount of scrutiny. It just takes time. It doesn't mean you do anything wrong. It just takes time. More often than not, people think about setting up a business and the auditor comes last in the food chain of vendors. Great, we'd love to have you on board. Can I get engagement next week? No, it's probably gonna take 2 months. What? My investors are lined up and they're ready. We don't want to slow you down. Think a little further in advance. If you're entering into a new part of your business, think about the accounting implications and how in the world am somebody going to audit this? Talk to your auditors in advance. Just be a little bit more forward thinking about, excuse me, that conversation. So we do see this across the industry, just like we did in the internet business. Sorry, it's allergy season. And the alternative investments business back in the day, and a little bit of forethought can make a lot smoother your journey from being niche to being mainstream. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me today. Our team is here throughout the day if you want to ask us any questions. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.